The phone call from my mother at 2:15 on Thursday pulled me out of a training briefing at Fort Hood, a tremor in her voice triggering alarm instantly. Mom was 69, a Navy widow who'd buried my father, Commander Robert Morrison, retired Navy, 3 years ago after 47 years of marriage. She lived alone in their house in Keene, Texas, surviving on my father's Navy pension and Social Security, rarely calling during duty hours unless something was wrong. "William, there are men at my door demanding $38,000, she said, her voice shaking with fear. "They say it's for HOA violations your father never paid. They're threatening to place a lien on the house," she added, desperation evident. "I don't have that kind of money. The pension barely covers expenses. I'm William Morrison, 32 years old. Army captain stationed at Fort Hood. The thought of someone threatening my widowed mother activated a cold, dangerous protective instinct instantly. "Mom, do not pay them. Do not sign anything," I said firmly. "Tell them to wait and speak with me. Their actions are illegal. They say if I don't pay today, foreclosure starts tomorrow," she added. "They're lying. Lock the doors. Stay inside. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I informed my commanding officer about a family emergency. Threatening a military widow is taken extremely seriously on base. Within 5 minutes, I was in my truck. The drive from Fort Hood, normally 30 minutes, I arrived in 17, racing to my childhood home where Dad retired after 30 years of Navy service. 3 men in sleeveless black tactical jackets stood on the front porch, clipboards and tablets in hand, pounding on the door while Mom peered terrified from the window. I crossed the lawn in seconds, shouting, "Get away from that door right now." They barely registered my presence before freezing in place. Their jackets bore patches reading Riverbend Estates, HOA Collections Division. The leader, ex-military, maybe 48, sized me up like assessing a potential threat, his expression sharp and calculating. "Sir, this is HOA business," the leader said firmly. "We're collecting outstanding violation fees from the property owner." I stepped forward. "That's my mother. She is a Navy widow. These violations date back 3 years, accumulated before your father passed. Payment is required today or foreclosure proceedings begin," the man said, voice flat, expecting compliance without question. Mom opened the door behind them, red-eyed and crying. "William, I don't understand. Your father never mentioned HOA violations. We've lived here 26 years. There's never been an HOA. Ma'am, Riverbend Estates HOA reactivated 2 years ago by majority vote," the leader replied. "Your husband was notified. These violations are legitimate." I stepped onto the porch, putting myself directly between the 3 men and my mother. "Show me documentation. Proof of reactivation, proof of violations, proof that my father was properly notified." The leader pulled out a tablet displaying what looked like official HOA documents, violation notices supposedly sent to my father, and accumulated fines totaling $38,000. I reviewed every document with the scrutiny trained into me by the Army, noting dates and details with precision, aware that any error could reveal a scam. Violations dated 3 years ago to 6 months ago. My father died 3 years ago. Half of these were dated after his death. My jaw tightened with disbelief. The leader's confident expression flickered. "Administrative error," he muttered. "The violations were assessed to the property, not the individual. So you're claiming my father violated HOA rules, yet you didn't notify anyone until after he died," I said sharply. "Now you're threatening his 90-year-old widow." My voice went into command mode, the same tone I used with subordinates requiring correction. "Give me your names, company information, and every document. Leave immediately. I will verify every claim. If this is a scam, you face all possible consequences," I added, eyes locked on the leader's shifting gaze. "Sir, we have legal authority," he said cautiously. "I'm a United States Army captain," I countered. "I know what authority looks like." "This isn't it." The three men looked at each other nervously, realizing that military officers carry a different kind of authority, one they clearly did not understand. The leader provided business cards and digital copies of their documents. "We'll be back tomorrow for payment," he warned as they backed toward their vehicle. "If your mother doesn't pay, foreclosure proceeds." "You're not getting a penny until I verify everything," I said firmly. "And if this is a scam, you won't return." Once they left, I sat with Mom in the living room where she and Dad had spent decades together. She shook, holding letters supposedly sent to Dad after his death. "William, I can't afford $38,000. If they take the house, where will I go? This is all I have left of your father." "They're not taking the house, Mom," I reassured her. "I need to make some calls." I contacted Fort Hood Legal Assistance, explaining the fraudulent HOA attempt. They connected me immediately with Captain Rebecca Stanton, a JAG officer specializing in veteran family issues. I sent her all documentation the fake HOA had provided. "Captain Morrison, this is a scam," Stanton said within 2 hours. "Riverbend Estates HOA dissolved in 2015. These documents are fraudulent. The violations are fabricated, targeting your widowed mother. We're going to destroy them," I said, anger coiling in my chest. Stanton coordinated with the Texas Attorney General, the FBI, and federal law enforcement. Over the next 3 days, I stayed at Mom's house, providing security and emotional support while Stanton uncovered the full scope of the operation. The three men, Gerald Thompson, Marcus White, and Craig Bennett, worked for a criminal organization run by Vincent Dalton, creating fake HOA schemes across Texas targeting military widows. Dalton's scheme involved fabricating HOA reactivations, inventing violations, and threatening immediate foreclosure unless payment was made, exploiting widows living on fixed pensions, knowing fear would force compliance. Most military widows, scared of losing their homes and confused about the process, would drain savings or go into debt, giving Dalton access to thousands in fraudulent collections. Dalton made one catastrophic error, targeting the mother of an Army captain with access to military legal resources and absolute determination to protect his family. Captain Stanton didn't just assist. She weaponized military legal resources, coordinating with the Texas Attorney General, FBI, and U.S. Attorney's Office, connecting veteran advocacy groups for collective protection. We organized over 150 military widows who'd been targeted by Dalton's operation, providing guidance, transportation, and security while exposing the organized scam to authorities. Soldiers from multiple Fort Hood units volunteered to protect Mom and other victims, ensuring widows had support for legal appointments and personal security. The operation escalated into a military precision intervention designed to dismantle Dalton's criminal organization entirely, ensuring no widow could be victimized further. The criminal trial occurred 12 months later, with Mom testifying vividly about the three men threatening her home and demanding $38,000. "My husband served 30 years in the Navy," Mom said, tears streaming. "He retired as commander. He died 3 years ago. I live on his pension. These men threatened to take it." She recounted finding 3 men on the porch pounding on her door, demanding payment, explaining how military resources were activated to protect her and expose the fraudulent operation. Captain Stanton testified regarding the 153 military widows targeted across Texas, explaining how Dalton researched obituaries of deceased veterans and targeted surviving spouses, exploiting their pension dependency. 152 additional widows testified, detailing threats, intimidation, and fear imposed by Dalton's enforcers, all living on military pensions, reliant on the income to sustain their households. Every testimony reinforced Dalton's systematic targeting, deception, and exploitation of widows unaware of their legal protections and lacking means to resist. The jury convicted Vincent Dalton and all three enforcers on every count presented, including fraud, intimidation, and attempted property seizure under false authority. Dalton received 47 years in federal prison, while Thompson, White, and Bennett were sentenced to between 39 and 43 years each. The federal judge stated, "You created a criminal enterprise specifically targeting military widows, exploiting their vulnerability and fixed pensions, showing no remorse, attempting to justify theft as debt collection." Captain Stanton filed a massive civil suit on behalf of all 153 victims, highlighting the organized fraud, intimidation, and predatory HOA scheme. The jury awarded $172 million in damages collectively, with Mom's settlement of $8.6 million donated entirely to create the Commander Robert Morrison Military Widow Protection Fund. Fund provides legal assistance and financial support to military widows targeted by scams, ensuring immediate intervention and long-term safeguards against predatory operations. Federal legislation followed Mom's case, establishing the Morrison Military Widow Protection Act, an enhanced federal felony to prevent fraudulent debt collection or property seizure targeting military widows. The act mandates verification of military survivor benefits prior to enforcement, creates federal task forces to protect widows, and criminalizes exploitation of veteran surviving spouses. Mom continues living in the house she shared with Dad for 26 years, surrounded by memories, Navy medals, and photographs celebrating his decorated career. "I remain an Army captain at Fort Hood, but protecting military widows has become an informal mission for units across the base, inspired by Mom's case. Soldiers routinely check on widows, assist with home maintenance, and provide security, ensuring that no military surviving spouse experiences harassment or exploitation." The Morrison Military Widow Protection Fund has assisted over 900 widows, providing legal counsel, coordination with law enforcement, and financial guidance against fraudulent HOA schemes. Mom volunteers as director, sharing her personal experience to educate surviving spouses on rights, protections, and legal recourse when confronted by predatory actors. Last month, a Navy widow in Houston contacted the fund after someone claiming HOA authority threatened foreclosure over minor property issues. Thanks to the Morrison Military Widow Protection Act, the scammers were arrested immediately under enhanced federal felony provisions, carrying 45-year mandatory minimums for targeting a military widow. The woman called Mom crying with gratitude, expressing relief that her son's intervention and the law protected her family from financial ruin. "I visit Mom every weekend, often bringing soldiers from base to assist with yard work, repairs, and security, reinforcing a culture of protection for military surviving spouses. Mom hosts them for lunch, sharing stories of Dad's Navy career, ensuring the legacy of service and protection continues across generations. Dad's photo in Navy dress whites hangs above the fireplace, a daily reminder of his service and the family's ongoing mission to protect military widows. Mom talks to it sometimes, telling Dad about the fund named after him, about the law that safeguards widows, and about me, the son who ensured she was never vulnerable. Dalton thought he could threaten a Navy widow on a fixed pension. He failed to consider the military network, legal resources, and protective son guarding the family legacy. That is the sound of the military protecting its own: vigilance, legal expertise, and collective action against exploitation. It sounds like an Army captain defending his mother, military legal teams coordinating prosecution, and a Navy commander's legacy becoming federal law. Gerald Thompson demanded $38,000 from my widowed mother, exploiting her vulnerability and ignorance of her rights and legal protections. We ensured he spent 43 years in federal prison, learning that military widows are safeguarded by every service member aware of veteran family protection protocols. If you love this story about an Army captain protecting his Navy widow mother, absolutely like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring real-life military family accounts. This story illustrates the consequence of targeting those who served, the strength of military networks, and the legal resources available to defend vulnerable surviving spouses. Fraudsters attempting to exploit military widows will now face swift justice and coordinated military, federal, and legal response. It's a reminder that targeting a veteran's surviving spouse is not a minor offense, but a serious federal crime with harsh penalties. The Morrison Military Widow Protection Act now protects countless widows across the United States, providing immediate recourse against predatory debt collection, property threats, or fraudulent HOA schemes. Soldiers, legal officers, and advocacy groups collaborate to ensure widows are educated, supported, and shielded from similar fraudulent operations. Mom's resilience, combined with military coordination, legal expertise, and family protection, has set a precedent for safeguarding surviving spouses nationally. Veterans' families now have resources, legal protections, and organizational support to ensure scams and fraudulent property threats are intercepted before damage occurs. The Army, FBI, and state authorities now work in coordination with the Morrison Fund to protect widows from threats similar to those attempted by Dalton's operation. The narrative demonstrates how swift action, legal expertise, and protective instincts can neutralize scams and prevent financial and emotional harm. Mom's testimony, combined with Captain Stanton's legal strategy, created an airtight case against Dalton, emphasizing evidence, procedural fraud, and organized targeting of vulnerable military widows. Court proceedings highlighted Dalton's predatory research into obituaries and pension reliance, revealing the systematic exploitation of widows living off fixed incomes. Each widow's testimony reinforced the human cost of fraud, ensuring the jury understood the extensive reach and malicious intent behind Dalton's operation. Dalton and his crew received sentences reflecting the severity of their crimes, setting precedent for future prosecution of HOA fraud and elder financial abuse. The civil suit awarded substantial damages, part of which fund ongoing legal support for widows, turning personal victimization into national advocacy. Mom's house remains her sanctuary, a testament to her husband's service, the family's resilience, and the Army's protective network ensuring her safety. The Morrison Military Widow Protection Fund continues outreach, helping widows understand rights, respond to threats, and assert legal protections confidently. Soldiers, lawyers, and volunteers ensure that no widow faces intimidation or foreclosure due to fraudulent HOA claims or predatory schemes. I continue my service at Fort Hood, combining military expertise with family protection, exemplifying how duty extends beyond the battlefield to safeguarding vulnerable loved ones. Dalton underestimated the consequences of targeting a military family, and his actions resulted in decades of imprisonment, financial restitution, and the creation of lasting legal protections. The story concludes as Mom safely tends her home, surrounded by military support, legal safeguards, and the legacy of her husband, secure in the knowledge she will never be victimized again.